Hi everyone!
Hello and welcome to Glee Books. My name is Jamie Gordon and I'm the Assistant Events Manager, and it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the store and Bianca. Before we begin the proceedings, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It is upon their ancestral lands that Glee Books is built, and I think it's important that we remember that. I'd also like to remind everyone to please turn off their mobile phones and to let me or my staff know if you're getting too hot or too cold, and we'll adjust the aircon accordingly. Now, I'd like to introduce Claire Mann, who will be launching Bianca's book this afternoon. Claire is a vegan psychologist, existential therapist, animal rights campaigner, and author of numerous books and training programs. She is an expert in communication, skilled in dispelling the myths that limit people in their lives and work so they can create satisfying lives that align with their values and purpose. We're very glad to have her with us here today. It was actually about 15 years ago she launched one of her first books here on this very stage. So please join me in welcoming Claire Mann.
Thank you. Let's just adapt this. I'm not used to standing behind anything, but welcome to the launch of Bianca's book, Hello, Can You Hear Me? Can we give her a round of applause to start? Absolutely, because you know, in writing a book, you know, it's a real labour of love, isn't it, Katrina? Gosh, Bianca. She's been fraternising you today. So, you know, all of us have sort of feelings, don't we? You ever been sitting on a bus or something, and you know someone's behind you looking at you, and nothing's been said, but you look behind, and you feel something's going on. Or you think about a friend you haven't spoken to for 10 years, and suddenly they call. Okay, and in fact, I was speaking about Penny the other day, and she then sent me a text about her dog. Now, what if that communication was something we haven't honed into with each other as people, but what so if we can take it even further with animals? Many of you might know Richard Sheldrake. He wrote a book, Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. Now, it was a wonderful book where an experiment was set up prior to the day of the mobile phone, where pagers, anybody know what a pager is? Young people, the landline days, so to speak. They gave the people a pager, the guardians of the animals, and said, take this with you. We've set up cameras in your home to moderate the behaviour and monitor the behaviour of your animal. And when you get the pager beeping, I want you to immediately pack up your things and go home. But we're going to do it in a very random way. And so they, over many sort of trials, they had lots of guardians and their animals on the camera. The pagers would go off at all different times, so the animals weren't expecting the guardian to come home, and they found that as soon as the person had the intention to return home, the dog started to behave differently. Okay, it's now something we know is the morphogenic field, this area of consciousness that we can all tap into with each other, but now we know that we can do it with animals, of course. I think it was Einstein who said, and I'm at that vintage when I have to hold things away, spooky acts happening at a distance. Now, I remember when I was living back in England, and there was a saying about an Airedale dog, a particular breed of dog, and it's, if you can teach the Airedale to play the violin, do you need the string quartet to tell you it's happening? Of course not, and we've become such slaves to scientific evidence that people were constantly looking for evidence. And when we talk about the area of communication with animals, you see some people raise their eyebrows and go, oh yes, we project everything onto them. You know, we have been so cut off from our essential selves and our sense of knowing. Now, luckily, quantum science and science itself is catching up with common sense. Is that when we start to trust our intuition, but also that thoughts actually affect matter. Okay, so I wanted to open our eyes, and I'm sure everybody here has got a very open mind, as they wouldn't be at this book launch. But I've had some personal experiences with animals, and my partner Brendan and I were living in New Zealand, and our then beautiful Daz, who died two years and 3 days ago, not that we're counting. Daz was a beautiful German Shepherd Kelpie who Bianca worked with very closely, particularly at the end of her life. And we were living in New Zealand in a rural area on the South Island. And every day when I was there, I would walk Daz and her sister Minka up into the hills, and we would look back on the Wairau Plains. And this day, Daz wanted to go down the hill. That was a sort of gravel road, sort of not very easy to walk on, a big long straight road that would lead to the highway. And I kept saying, no, why don't we go up to the hills? We have this beautiful view and there's all the trees and everything there. She insisted on going down. So we went down and she insisted on going left, a place we had never been. About 5 k's away was a house with a few people living there, but we would always have gone right. That would have been our routine for the previous year. We walked for about 1.5 kilometres, her insisting on going there, and we found a little baby calf wedged in between the edge of the lane and the field, and all the mothers had been moved away and they were all crying. How did she know that? Now, I don't really ask those questions because, you know, her sense of knowing and intuition. I'm quite surprised how many people say, I'm sure she was able to smell the calf. Kilometres of open area, animals, manure, exhaust fumes a little bit further, but she can smell the calf, because some people cannot allow themselves to trust themselves enough, that sort of knowing. And think about your own experiences. I've had friends who say that their otherwise very quiet cat has been constantly trying to wake them up one evening and was pawing at them and insisted they got up in the middle of the night, only to find that she had left a pot of boiling soup on down in the kitchen. When we really tap into animals, as Bianca's going to share with us tonight, we know this. Now, we've all had those intuitions around animals. Just think about your own experiences at the moment. And what if we could hone this communication with our animals and also learn to hear what they say to us? But not only those animals we call companions, the wider animals, which really are at the mercy of human beings, and what we eat and what we wear, and for entertainment, and they're really not ours. They're here for their own sake. And so having someone like Bianca to really start to communicate at that level with the ones that we live closely to, hopefully we're going to expand that a little bit further. Now, in realizing that Bianca was that woman to bring to the world really the way in which we can communicate with animals, I'm going to read something out the back of her book to give credit to who she is and what it's about. But firstly to say is that few great accomplishments are achieved single-handedly. Okay, there's 2 very special people that aren't here today who were in Lana and Bianca's life for over a decade, which is Rosie and Toby. They're not physically here, but they are here, and they're infused through the book, and they've inspired her to work, sadly not in the physical plane anymore. And also Lana and her family. There's Michael, who's doing the live stream here, of course. There's also Mem Davis, there she is. She's a wonderful copywriter for All Things Conscious. Sarah Kidd, I know, has helped you with the project management of Bake Vegan Stuff by Sarah Kidd, of course. And then, of course, a big thanks to Glee Books. As I say, few great accomplishments are achieved single-handedly. So let's find out who Bianca is, shall we? I am going to read from the back to just capture that. And I say I'm of that vintage when I have to hold this away. And if you don't mind if I do it word for word, because it's just written so beautifully. Thank you. So Bianca de Reus is one of Australia's sought-after soul coaches and animal communicators. She works with people and animals around the world, teaching, healing, communicating with animals, coaching and mentoring. Through many years of work, she's gained experience working with many animals, including dogs, cats, horses, and others. She lives in Sydney with her partner, our then 2 dogs who are still here, as we know. And she's available, of course, for consultations, mentoring, and of course today to launch her book. So before I pass over to her, I'm just going to read out a little endorsement I wrote on the back of the book. The foreword you'll be able to read later, of course. In this book, Bianca de Reus, would you like to borrow my Yeah, light actually, I thought it was going to be a little brighter here. Oh, here we go, look at that. In this book, Bianca has shown us that far from being sentimental or irrational, communicating with animals is something we can all do. Her book offers a fresh approach to understanding animals and invites us, this is really very dark, to expand our bandwidth of compassion to encompass a much wider range of animals. So I'm now going to pass over to her. Can we give her another round of applause?
Oh wow. First of all, thank you all so much for being here. I'm so honored and feel so blessed that you're all here on my journey. That was not loud enough.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so as I said, I'm so honored and feel so blessed to see many of you here. It's been a wild journey, really. The book has been 5 years in the making, and the first time I actually got the hard copy in my hands, I just could not believe it. It was so surreal, and still feels a little bit surreal as well. So usually what people ask me first is, how did you get into this? How do you actually connect with the animals at that level? What is it that you experience when you do connect with animals? Now, it was during a time when I worked in corporate finance, so that's already a bit of a different industry than being very conscious and working with spirit and being connected heart to heart and soul to soul. Because put very simply, animal communication is soul to soul connection. Because that's what we do on an everyday basis, even though we are not aware of it. How we live our lives most of the time is that we need to do a lot of stuff. We feel like we have to do things and we need to do things, and we don't take time to actually just stand still and tune into ourselves. Where am I at? What am I doing? Who am I with? Am I still on path? Am I doing what I love doing? We're not present. We're not in the moment. Animals are always in the moment. Sure, they may experience certain things in the past and that might affect how they behave right now, but most of the time they are very much in the moment. Now I know that animals are affected by certain things in the past because I've also worked with a lot of rescue animals, and some of them still need to go through the trauma that they have experienced in the previous household or in the area where they're in. And so the help that I can give them in those moments is really important as well. And they're so grateful, and they find it so amazing that myself and many other people are listening to them from that level of soul-to-soul connection. And it's really interesting because earlier on in the week I was at an event that Katrina Fox had organized, and it was very funny because she mentioned something along the lines of, you're going to hear a very interesting person right now with a wonderful story that you don't hear every day, which is fantastic. Now, during my corporate career, I already started to explore some of my spiritual abilities. So I became a Reiki healer first, and I was already a life coach, and I knew intuitively what that was. I did do a qualification for that, but as I went through that learning material, I was like, well, I don't need to learn much because I do this already. What is that about? And when I became a Reiki healer, all these other avenues started to open up for me. And I knew then, when I learned all this, that I already had these openings. I already had these sensations of, I feel others around me. I can hear different voices apart from my own voice, but never really tapped into it. Until a snake approached me. And that's what I would love to read out for you now, because that story is actually in the book as well. I am going to use my glasses. My encounter with a snake. Hello, can you hear me? I heard the words whilst I was sitting with a dear friend on an old fallen tree trunk back in 2011. We had stopped for a bite to eat during our bushwalk, and I asked her if she'd said anything. She hadn't. I thought I was hearing things, so I brushed it off and didn't pay any attention. Then I heard it again. Hello, hello, can you hear me? Again, I ignored it, but I heard it again, with a bit more force this time. I heard it up to 5 times before finally, in my mind, I asked who it was. The following conversation took place. "Great, you can finally hear me. I'm here to tell you to go out into the world and do your job." I asked, "Who are you and what do you mean?" It replied, "I am a snake and I'm under the tree." "Oh, okay, wow." The snake said, "I'm just testing to find out if you can hear me. You need to keep practicing this. Go out into the world and do your job." I felt really confused and shocked. I couldn't believe I was talking to a snake, so I asked, "Can I see you?" The snake then answered, "No, I'd rather not. Your friend is afraid of snakes and I don't want to scare her." I felt even more confused. My friend had never told me that she was afraid of snakes. And here we were in the Australian bush. I simply said, "Okay." The snake then replied, "That was all. Just wanted to hear you and confirm you can hear me. Now go off and do your job." And I'm still getting the chills thinking about it right now. And that was it. He seemed to be going away. My friend was looking at me strangely and asked what had just happened. She said my face looked a little bit weird. I asked her, "Are you afraid of snakes?" Not a second later, she turned white as a ghost and jumped up, looking around scared and asking where the snake was. That was my validation. My absolute certainty that I did not dream this and I wasn't making it up. I explained to her there is no snake around, or at least not anymore, so she could relax a little bit. I told her what had happened and that the snake was also compassionate towards her fear. We both sat quietly for a while in amazement. Now, deep in my heart, I knew the job ahead. I knew the snake was absolutely right and I had just discovered my purpose. Connecting soul beings, animals and humans, to reunite them, reconnect them, enabling the creation of a harmonious and loving life together here on Earth. After we ate and rested, we continued with our walk. A few minutes later, and in an Aussie accent, there was a lizard calling me full of excitement. "Hey, can you see me? Can you see me?" When I acknowledged that I saw him on the tree, he was satisfied and just wandered off. I was again both shocked and amazed, yet this time with a sense of excitement. And the rest is history, as they say. So that afternoon when I came home, Rosie and Toby at the time were extremely excited because they felt that I could hear them all of a sudden, and in particular Toby, he just had this waterfall of information coming over me, and I was like, "Mate, you need to stop because I don't know what this is and what I'm doing." So the adventure basically started then with the animals, and I already had a really close relationship with them, but now even closer. So I found other people to help me to actually make it a bit more tangible for myself, because being in corporate, this analytical mind, you know what it is? Keeps over and over thinking and analyzing and trying to find out reasons why. Now that drove me a little bit insane. But I came out of it very well at the other end. So yeah, and here we are.
I love that story, and I remember the first time you told me, and I remember sharing a story with you, of course, the first time I heard a spider speak to me. And I was in a small apartment I had in King's Cross, and I remember saying to you, but it wasn't actually the words or anything, but there was like a high-pitched noise, and I looked around to try that sort of sense of intuition I talked about. And do some people have that sort of sense where they don't hear the words, but they have a sense on a different sort of plane, different resonance?
Absolutely, yes. So I hear the words, but I can also feel what the animals are feeling, so I sense them. They call it clairsentient, and when you hear things, they call it clairaudience, and when you see images or photos or colors, it's clairvoyance. So people receive that information from an energetic level, which is what it is, in different ways. So yes, in a spider, for example, it is an insect, and they what we call vibrate at a different level than we do. So energy is something that you can feel, like a sensation. You know, sometimes you walk into a room and you feel really excited, and oh, this is going to be a great event. And sometimes you walk into a room and you go, oh, I'm not sure if I like it here. That's energy. You sense it. intuitively you know whether to stay in that place or not. And you can have it with people and also animals. So animals vibrate at slightly different levels. Spiders are part of the insects, so, and I can still resonate with that because, for example, when I connect with cockroaches, they talk really fast and at a very high, like their voice is really high pitched, so I can understand that you heard that really high pitched sound from that spider as well. Yeah.
Well, it was almost like a high pitch. It was like a very high pitch. You know, you hear it. And but it's interesting you say about cockroaches, isn't it? Because given that often humans find it so difficult to relate to animals, or might even spray the cockroaches or do something,
No, please
or
don't.
please don't do that. It's
Just pick them up, put them outside.
yeah, absolutely. Well, if you treat every cockroach as a golden retriever, because we actually don't know, do we, that maybe their thoughts, feelings, and actions are like that. In fact, I know a dear friend of yours, Sarah Kidd, of course. And can I tell a little story? And I'd love to a little bit of validation from you. And a friend of many of us. And I was staying with her, and on her camera strap, the strap of her camera, there she found some cockroach eggs. And she very carefully took them out into the garden. And then she came back, and we both looked at each other in horror and said, "Where's the mother?" Because actually we don't know. So perhaps I could have your take on that, because these are animals that often people don't relate to, but that was her baby, surely.
Yeah, well, I can't really relate to the personal cockroach and the eggs. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, I mean, cockroaches live with us all the time, so even if you can't see them. And yeah, I mean, personally, I just tell them, I'm going to pick you up right now and I'm going to put you outside. Other people may treat that slightly different. But since I've learned how to communicate with animals and actually sense them all the time, I just find it really hard to treat them any different. So, and that just makes it, yeah, that's just how I do it, yeah. So I'm the rescuer at home as well.
It's about expanding our compassion to all of animals, isn't it? We're all living beings, really. A lot of people must come to you when their animals are not well, or something's not sort of working, or when they're at the end of their life. Can you tell us something about that? Is that challenging for you? How do you work with the guardian and the animal?
Yeah, that's probably the saddest part of the work that I do. But at the same time, it's a very honourable way to help the animals. Most of the time, and people come to me because they may struggle with certain behaviours that animals present themselves with, or the animal might be feeling sick, or they just, a little bit uncomfortable. They've observed something different with their animals and they don't know what that is. They may have gone on different avenues, even going to the vet, and the vet says, well, there's nothing really wrong with your animal physically, but it could be a mental situation. Now, when animals are about to pass over, we would love to obviously making sure that they are really comfortable, that we can do everything we can to help them to transition. And to be able to then tap into their energy and frequency to ask, what is it that you would like right now? What else can we do for you? Is there anything that you would like to tell your human family before you pass over? And for me personally, I can sense about the time when they're passing, because then I can already see where they're going. They show me the other family on the other side who's already waiting for them. And then I know it's going to happen really quickly. And it could be on their day, it could be another couple of days, but it's within a time span of a week, absolutely. Sometimes a vet said, well, your animal may have another month to live. When I tune into an animal that is not yet ready, then I don't see much, but I can already sense that they are preparing for it. And they know that they're going very quickly. How I help them is to really find out what is it that we can do for you right now. Would you like a different blanket? Do you want more water? Are you happy to eat or not? Where are you going? Do you see who's waiting for you? And I can share that information with the human family because it helps us to know that, because we want to make sure that they're going to be safe, they're going to be happy, they're going to be absolutely pain-free. And the same goes for us humans, right? When our dear loved ones are passing over, we also want to make sure that they are safe and that they are without pain and are going to have a really wonderful spiritual experience, because that's what's going to happen after we pass. At least that's what I believe and I know right now. And animals have exactly the same. And as hard as it is, they are still with us. And I know for a fact now with Rosie and Toby as well, that they are with me every single day. And I still ask them, what do you need? Because it's a bit of a habit. What else can I do? But it's just beautiful to be part of that. And it helps my clients to, it doesn't help to fully heal in those moments straight away, because obviously there is the grieving that comes and is part of that. But it helps them to understand that the animal is completely at peace with the journey and when they're going. And that already gives a little bit of relief for us. It helps us, it's soothing to know that we've done everything we can in our power to help them through this. And this is a really beautiful way. Yeah, it's amazing.
They talk about an assurance of an afterlife, so to speak, or another life. And you've had certain experiences of that, haven't you? Could you share that with us? Because it's
anyone in particular you're referring to?
And I'm talking about your own experiences where you've tapped into that, and which
definitely
allows you to say it with such assurance.
I mean, in particular with Rosie, she was a funny character. Her nickname was Bitchy Witchy. That probably says it all. She had a very strong mind. She knew exactly what she wanted. And to her last breath, she didn't tell me exactly how sick she was, but she was really, really sick. However, we were preparing for her brother Toby to pass over. So he was already in palliative care, and we were preparing for his journey in the spirit world. Now, when Rosie passed, Toby passed almost exactly the day 2 months later. She came to get him. She says, I had to go first to make sure that he has a safe passage. And that was just so beautiful to know that she was there. And she's still here, because every time I drive my car in particular, she's on the front seat next to me. And I can just hear and see her, and she's just really, really happy to still be with me, to still help in that way. And she was a bit of a business partner too, because she usually told me, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. And for Toby, it was just beautiful to know that I could tell him that Rosie is there for you. Rosie's helping you to cross over. You will be together, because he was a little bit scared of crossing over as well. But I've had it with other animals too. I've got a really dear friend of mine had a rescue Kelpie, and the Kelpie passed when she was about 14, 15 months old. And it was actually the first time I learned about animals' suicide. Now this Kelpie was in a physical body for the very, very first time, and she didn't enjoy it at all. So she was in a park, jumped out of the car, saw a white light across the road, ran for it and says, I'm going home. And she ran for it, and she got hit by a car, and there was no saving her. Now, that night she came to me, and I was in shock, because that was the first time I experienced an animal coming to me from the spirit world. And it was like she was sitting next to me, and I could see her looking at me. But before she passed, and she always came to visit our house, she used to always run into me going, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. And I used to always say, no, you're not. You're with, with our friends, you need to go back home. And she goes, no, I'm home with you. And then after she passed, she told me, she goes, you are connected. I could see my home through you. And she actually passed away. And now, sometimes she helps me to bring other animals through who have passed over to, help my clients to understand that their animals are safe and at peace and they're still here. Because I can certainly connect to animals who have passed over as well. But Nala sometimes helps that process along and brings them through. Yeah.
Do you find that children are able to connect more with animal communication?
Very much so. Yeah, not just animal communication. Children are very much tuned in. And because children are so pure, and we all were born that way, we all were born very much connected to spirit, very much connected to our higher self. There was no ego at the time. And as a child, you learn things straight away from your parents. They're your first teachers, they're your first mentors. And so children, sometimes people think, oh, they've got an imaginary friend. And we tell that to a child. Oh, you were talking. Yeah, I've got my friend with me. Oh, that must be your imaginary friend. No, that is definitely a soul being who comes to visit and have a play. because spirits want to have fun too. So, and children have that, but sometimes that's closed off the minute they go through puberty, because there is so many changes happening at a physical level in their physical body that sometimes, you know, before you're born, you choose to have that closed off during puberty, and then it may reactivate again after. For some people, it stays open, you know, and they may see spirits very quickly. They hear them. They literally have playtime, play dates, and you know, they talk to them and interact with them. So yeah, very much. Yeah.
I think you have another reading for us, don't you? You have another section. We'll have a little interlude.
Yes.
That's, if you're ready to do that, it'd be wonderful.
So I mentioned before that animals' behavior can shift, and then when we connect and find out why that is, the behavior can shift back to normal. I had a bit of an experience with that with one of the cats, but I'm going to share with you a different cat. And this is a chapter of the book called Your Pet is Your Mirror. Now, when I work with clients, I usually tell them it comes with a bit of a warning. You will hear stuff about yourself that you don't want to know about. Because our animals know us very, very well, and they will share with me what's going on. So your pet is your mirror. Do you observe your pet and identify any persistent behaviors that irritate you? Well, pay attention. Your pet is telling you something. Previously, I spoke about animals telling me the reasons they behave in a certain way, and that this may be a result of our own behavior. We also need to observe our animals more closely. Rather than talking to them, punishing them, or ignoring them. I believe that some behavior should not be tolerated, and is not the right way the animals should be. Such behavior might include barking for no reason, sulking, following you, looking at you all the time, not eating, or perhaps presenting with some aches and pains. Or perhaps presenting with the same aches and pains you also experience. For example, when you have a dog suffering anxiety, a cat who is shying away from humans, or a bird plucking feathers from their body, then we need to address this, and for our pet. Then we need to address this with and for our pet, and also look at ourselves and ask, what am I doing that might create this behavior? What is happening in our direct environment to create this behavior? What can we do to change that? Once we recognize this, and trust me, it's sometimes not easy to acknowledge, we can implement the right changes for ourselves and our animals. Sometimes it pushes us to connect back to ourselves, do a bit of a stock take of our life, where we are at and what our next steps are. The important thing here is to not just acknowledge it, but to actually implement the changes required. I'll give you an example. Audrey, the cat, was behaving so aggressively because one of the people in the household was drinking excessively after work. That started not to only affect him, but also the other people in the household. Once my client recognized this, he started taking steps to reduce alcohol intake, having tea instead. This changed the behavior for the better, and the family was happier for it, as well as Audrey. She became her happy self again. Now, for our crazy cat people, here is another example of this. I can't let this one pass you by. Rami, the cat with the keyboard fetish. Rami was an 8-year-old cat who lived for cuddles and belly rubs. His normally docile behavior changed over the course of a few weeks, when he began sitting on his guardian's computer keyboard. If she moved him, he would either jump straight back up or turn and bite her. This was very uncharacteristic behavior for him. Rami's guardian tried all the tricks in the book to distract him, but he insisted on sitting on the keyboard or pushing it off the desk. As she worked from home, it was important to Rami's mum that this behavior stopped. At her wit's end, she called me for help. Rami was finally able to explain that the work his guardian was doing was actually not suited to her, and she was doing herself a disservice by continuing this work. This was confusing and alarming for her, as she was working 3 different roles from home and was uncertain which one he was referring to. I was able to clarify this for her, and she began to pay attention to when Rami was particularly persistent and annoying. Within a month, she reduced her workload significantly, and Rami returned to his usual docile, snuggly self. He still lets her know when she is being distracted from what he sees as her true work, but for the most part, he picks a cushion near her desk and snores while she types. This is yet another of my many examples of how our pets really do know what's best for us and will do anything to let us know. Our animals are our guides. They are our teachers and our mirrors. They want us to be happy, fulfilled, and at peace.
So glad you put that in there, and we're all looking around there because there's Ronnie's human. I'm so glad you put that in because so many people at a cursory sort of level say, generally in the public, animals treat you how to be present. If I could be more like my dog or my cat, I'm in that moment sort of thing. But you're saying they can teach us so much more. And what are the key lessons that we should be listening to as humans who seem to have lost our way in many ways?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest things that are definitely going on right now is that we are too focused on the doing. We are not being at the moment. Animals also feel that we are not at the right level in terms of our energies. We're not tapping into the higher energy source that we have available to us. That means that we are not standing still. We're not stopping. We're not reassessing where we're at. And we're not feeling into our body to identify what's really going on. We're not connecting to our heart enough. We're too much in our heads. And I know this is probably something that you hear all the time. I need to get out of my head, I need to get into my heart. But it is a big, big struggle at the moment for humanity. And a lot of people that I work with. Because a lot of the time when I do talk to the animals and I work with people around them, that is the biggest thing. And trust. Animals believe that we don't trust where we're at. They feel that we're not trusting ourselves enough to make changes and that we can have the life that we truly want to live with each other, with love and with harmony. Because that's my reason for being here, is to enable more love and harmony around the world. It was interesting, earlier in the week I was at a meeting and it was asked what our mission is. And a few weeks ago I discovered my mission and I saw the numbers around that and I was literally in shock. Well, not me, but my ego was. My ego was like, you can't do that. But then I tapped into my heart and I'm like, I so got this. I want to make sure that I can help 1 million animals by teaching 5 million people how to do this important work. I can't do this alone. So that's why I teach this work as well. I want as many people to learn how to tune into your heart, to truly listen, to trust who you are, and be one with yourself, with other people in the animal kingdom. Because only then can we create love and harmony around the world.
I'd like to ask you about some of the more difficult relationships we have with animals, because to a large extent we're talking about the animals that we live with and that we have domesticated, of course, dogs, cats, horses. But there's a lot of animals, as we know, and this is very current in our world at the moment when we talk about veganism, which is a philosophy of the non-use and non-exploitation of animals. And yet we're seeing such resistance in our world at a level of tradition and habit and whatever. Now there's an enormous number of animals at this moment that can't even turn around and they live lives of quiet desperation, well, not quiet desperation at all. I've heard them, I've seen them. How can you wake people up to expanding their consciousness to farmed animals, to cockroaches, to our wildlife, to the mass extinction that is going on. But most of the animals caught in the industrial process, in the testing labs, you know, in the military exercises, and for what people eat and wear. How can you help us out there to expand that?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. It's something that I struggle with at a certain level. The people that I teach animal communication, I usually get them to start with their own animals first. That can be a bit of a challenge because we live with them every single day. We know exactly how they behave and who they are. And then I say, look, go out in nature, just talk to any animal that you see, hear or feel around you. Now, the animals that are at the moment in environments where they are held in captivity, all I can say is, together at a conscious level, we need to tune into them, because they will pick up that we are in full support even though we can't physically do anything for them. And do as much as you can to reduce that anxiety for them, the aches and the pains that they go through for us. But I don't think that, I mean, obviously there are a lot of people out there that are extreme activists. Yourself are an activist. I think I'm an activist in one way, shape or another. And everybody is doing an important role to let the world know about what the animals are experiencing and how much pain they go through. But we can all do a little bit ourselves. And whatever way, shape or form that takes, that's all right. However, when we do put our vibration at a higher level, I'm sort of finding the words because I don't want to be too woo-woo and fluff over here. But when we, for example, meditate, right? Maybe you can spend a minute or two just putting your conscious level out there. Think about those animals and just send a message out there. I love you, I'm here for you, I'm doing everything in my power to help you guys. I might not be able to help you right now in this moment, but we will definitely be able to help anyone else that is following you. And when we do that at a conscious level and we do it collectively, then we can also make a massive big impact for the animals as well, even though it may not be in a physical form. And there's a lot of people out there that are much better doing that in a physical way. But for us, yeah, definitely at that conscious level as well, yeah.
And that's assuming, of course, that we make very wise choices about our consumer choices, so that we don't eat them, we don't wear them, we don't buy products that are tested on them. And we encourage people, as I know you do also, is to watch those Dominion.com documentaries, as painful as they are, so that we can truly, once you see it, you can't continue it. And don't let ourselves be hoodwinked into tapping in, as you say, to that level of consciousness, which ultimately is affecting us, of course, our planet, and certainly the animals that deserve to have lives of their own, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, so agree, definitely. Yeah.
That's right. So, say everything so much starts with us, isn't it? Actually, having a compassion for ourselves, then those we live with, and then actually the choices we actually make, which is amazing. I'm wondering if people would like to ask some questions. Yes.
Thanks, Bianca. You mentioned that you were helping some of the animals to pass over to their family on the other side, and sometimes I had a feeling that one of our animals was half human or more human. So my question would be, in terms of family systems, what is the family on the other side for these animals? Is it like cat-based, or is it just, what's your sense of it? Is it, or are they,
Very good question.
Yeah. Could you repeat the question?
Very good question. The question is around when animals pass over and they go to their spirit families. Do they go to, for example, a cat family and a dog family and all those sorts of different types of families? My belief and experience is we are all soul beings. We are already connected and we all go back to the same place. So I have had experiences myself, and this might sound a little bit out there for people perhaps, where I was taken back home and I can literally see my family, my roots at a spirit level. Animals and us, we all are the same at a soul level. We are all light, we are all made out of love, and we are beautiful beings, and we shine really bright. Part of us is in this body, but the other part is still so very much connected to that side of life. But we are all soul beings, and we choose to come into a physical body before we are born. So, like I said with Nala, for example, the dog that passed away that wasn't happy in her body, she just really did not enjoy being in a physical format. She goes, I just want to be a spirit being still. But they don't go to like a doggy heaven, or we're all in the same place in that sense. And for us, I've also written a chapter around the Rainbow Bridge. That gives us comfort to know they're going over this beautiful, colourful bridge with flowers and beautiful light, and it's all happy because it helps us, it comforts us. Now, I can tell you that both animals and humans are going to the other side where it is filled with love and joy. We don't know any better on the other side, and it is a beautiful, beautiful environment. Yeah, so, but there's no difference in that sense. There might be different realms, but that's a completely other story that we might need to talk about over a bottle of wine or something.
We had some, Katrina, I wonder, you can project your voice, can you?
Yeah, project, I've got a loud mouth apparently. So Bianca, I know some of us know Billy Dean, who runs the Animal Sanctuary.
Yes.
She's quite a spiritual person. I know she said to me in the past, she gets really fed up with so-called spiritual people who say that they too can speak with animals, and that the cow is speaking to them and saying, eat me, it's okay to take my life. Given that what you do is quite esoteric and you can't kind of prove it, how do you overcome that rubbish from there? Like, how do you prove that that's not what they're saying? Like, what can we do when we have a spiritual, and I put that in quote, person saying that, oh, the animal said that I can take it, they're happy to sacrifice, blah, blah. How do we overcome that?
Well, luckily I haven't encountered any of those people, because they wouldn't probably survive my imaginary raving. But I have never encountered a human being even saying, eat me and you can, you know, kill me, eat me, fry me up, or something like that, let alone an animal. But there is certainly proof in the work that I do, absolutely. It's the results that we bring. It's, I mean, everybody can learn this. Everybody already has the skill within them to communicate with animals. We have just forgotten how to do it. So I'm basically teaching people to reconnect with their heart, reconnect with their soul, to be able to hear, feel, and see what the animal is experiencing. Sometimes people say, well, how do you know you're talking to that particular animal, like a cow or a kangaroo or a dog or a cat or a bird? In the beginning, I used to ask people questions that they already knew about the animal if they know them. For example, for a dog, what is the color of your bowl? What did you have for breakfast? You know, that sort of stuff. Where do you walk in the park? What's your favorite park? People know that intuitively already. Like, they know at home that the dog bowl is green. So animals can invalidate that information, so people know, oh, you are talking to my bird, or you are talking to, you know, my horse in the field, sort of thing. So I always establish that first. Or I ask the animal, can you know, show me where you live? And then I describe the surroundings where they are. I heard it earlier in the week when you spoke about Des and the rainbow. I could literally, I was standing in your field and I saw the rainbow. I could describe where I was, and it was amazing. And sometimes I'm still very, very much surprised. Now, when people say, oh, I can hear animals and they told me that, I wouldn't believe that at all, because I've never encountered an animal to say, you know, you can kill me and eat me. No. I mean, humans wouldn't do that, so why would animals? And animals never have those sort of thoughts anyhow, because they are all coming from a place of unconditional love. You know, and yes, some animals kill because that's how they survive, you know, they eat, they need to eat as well. But I've never encountered people saying, yeah, that's what animals told me. I would certainly say, no, send me to that animal and I'll confirm that they've told you that, yes or no, for sure. Yeah, well, great question, thanks Katrina.
Do we have any more questions?
I have one. I've got 2 collie dogs. I just wonder, are they colourblind? Because when we take them in the car, they always bark at white vans that come by. And buses, they don't like buses. And no matter what we do, they will bark at them.
Yeah. I don't know for sure whether dogs are colourblind, for example. I know that they learn what colours are, and that's how they describe to me, you know, a certain colour. I know scientifically they say dogs are colorblind, or they only see in grey or black or white. But animals always talk to me about certain colors, for sure. Yeah. Now, buses and vans, why they bark, could also be because of the vibration that brings. And we know when a bus drives past, we just heard it here literally, you can feel the bus driving past, it has a certain level of vibration. But it could be that, yeah, something is in there that, and I'd love to further explore that, by the way, because it's very fascinating. There could be something energetically with those type of vehicles, whether they drive or not, that triggers that barking. Maybe they've experienced something that was, you know, that triggers that barking. Maybe someone had a car like that, or a vehicle like that, and that reminds them of something and they bark. Or it could be a warning for you. Maybe it's a message for you as well.
They're two rescue dogs, so I don't know what
Yeah.
they went through before.
Well, then we can certainly find out what happened before they actually came to live with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm going to get my bag because I've got a little prop here about a story that you've told, actually. You didn't expect me to bring this, did you?
No.
I'm just going to put that there for one moment. But you remember before the third rescue came to join us, or third rescue this time round, a beautiful 6-year-old who told us a lie, of course. He actually told us that perhaps he was a Ridgeback, but he's kind of Great Danish, isn't he? He's incredibly long legs. But I would just get a little prop out to add a little bit of, anyone who here is a little sceptical about how you can be after this, I'm not too sure, about communicating with animals, because I asked you, we have 3 rescues, and our last one was 6 years old, and we'd seen for several weeks and getting to know the family, and then all the animals get sent to Bianca to do a bit of reading with. And you met the beautiful comet, didn't you? And perhaps you can just do that while I'm getting my prop, and I will tell you the extra story that validated the experience.
Yes, so I connected with Comet before he was arriving in Claire's beautiful home, and I just wanted to make sure that he was happy to live with them, and asked him, what else do you need? How can we make this transition as smoothly as possible for you? And I visualized where they live, visualized where he was going and who he was going to live with. And he says, yeah, that all sounds really great, but you need to make sure that one thing is brought with me. And he sent me colors of green and blue. And I said, it's got a funny sort of feeling to it, because I sensed the texture of it. I go, it's not quite fabric, but it's also not plastic. It was sort of softish in the middle. But it's green and blue, and it needs to come with him. He doesn't want to leave without that toy. And I had no idea what it was, because at that point in time, he didn't tell me anything about the shape or anything like that. He just sent me the colors and the texture of it.
Yes. And I was sitting on the train at the time hearing this recording, and Bianca added this at the end, and I don't know if this makes sense, but I'll say it anyway. Apparently he's got this blue thing with yellow flecks on it, and he's definitely got to come with him. So I just text the previous guardian, who was also called Claire, and I said, Claire, I sound a bit weird, you know, but do you know anything about a blue and yellow thing? She said, why do you want to know that? I said, why? She said, well, he joined us 5 years ago. He very sadly was for 6 months in a crate where he couldn't move, in a dog pound. He'd come from a very rough area. His brother had actually gone into hunting, dog fighting very sadly. They couldn't take him. And he brought this toy with him. But when he came to the Blue Mountains 4 years ago, he lost it. And yesterday he returned with this toy he had found in the garden, presumably, which was blue with yellow flecks on it, as you can actually see as I move it around. And it's covered in gunk. And she said, oh gosh, we haven't seen that for 5 years. And she said, and I said, well, I've just had a reading. She said, he's meant to come and live with you. So there it is. So I think we'll give Bianca a round of applause for her work she does. I was very happy to have that. But we're kind of growing to that time when, you know, people are going to want to rush to the back and buy your book. Is there anything else that you want to read out or to say to us, to inspire us to take some of the messages you've had today?
Okay, good question. Put me on the spot. I would love to invite you to just be still and be with your animal. Be with, if you don't have pets at home, go out to a friend's house who has a pet. Go out into nature and just be with an animal and just feel their energy. Tune into them. Almost like you're tuning into a radio station to find the frequency and hear the words coming through. Old school, turning the knobs. I don't think that happens anymore. But I really invite you to do that, just to be still. You don't have to meditate. It's not about you meditate. It's just being there with them and sense, feel, perhaps hear or see what they're sending you. And ask them, would you allow me to just be with you in this moment? Just want to find out how you are, what you're experiencing, and just be. Because you will experience something. They will send you something. And you might think initially, oh, well, that was bullshit. That couldn't have been said by that. But it will. Anything that you come to get through is instant. It happens so quickly. You might see a flash of colour, or all of a sudden hear a sound, or perhaps you have a song in your head all of a sudden that reminds you of something. Or you might hear the words, I'm okay. You might ask a bird, do you have enough food? Out in the nature reserve, perhaps. And you'll hear them saying yes, or no, it's a bit challenging at the moment. But it will be interpreted for you in a way that you can understand it. It is an energy exchange. So however you receive it is okay. So it'll be really interesting to see how you experience that. Because that is the first step to you also being able to just be still for yourself. Even if it's a couple of moments per day. Just to tune into yourself. And just center. Feel what you're feeling. What are you experiencing right now? Because when you do that, it is so much easier to also tune into animals. So much easier to hear their messages. Because it's so beautiful. And yes, they do have their own personalities. They do have their own voices. You start to recognize them. And they do send their own quirky humor as well. Once I asked the cat, what's your personality like? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And he showed me images of, what's that name? Puss in Boots from the movie Shrek. I just cracked up laughing. And I'm like, how do? And he goes, well, you know that movie, so that's why I sent you that, because that's similar to who I am. And it was really funny. So they do have a good sense of humor as well. And have fun with this, you know. It's a beautiful, inspiring way and a fun way to work with our animals, to live with our animals, and to really enjoy each other's company. And then do the same with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends. You know, just be together in a moment, just stand still and just sense each other. Acknowledge, feel the love between you guys. You know, with the animals as well, they'll send you the love. It feels warm or tingly or anything else like that. Then you have the connection, and that's really beautiful. So go out into the world and sense and be. And connect.
You run workshops to help people communicate with the animals they're near, or they're in sanctuaries and working. And they can get hold of you. Of course, you put all your details in the book.
Yes, there are some links in the back of the book as well, how you can connect with me. But I do one-off consultations, and I run group workshops. I also have an online course. And I've got a beautiful community online called Connecting Soul Beings on Facebook. That's a beautiful group. And we've literally just finished a 5-day challenge, Chat with Your Pet, and that was really well received. It was a lot of fun to work on. So yeah, there's a variety of ways that you can work with me. So just get in touch and we'll have fun together.
Wonderful. Yeah. Now we're going to move to the back in a moment, and what I'm going to ask is, just before we give a final round of applause, is for you all to stay seated. There's nothing more inelegant than fighting your way through the crowd to get to the table, because I want to get Bianca safely at the back with a pen in her hand.
I've already fallen over once today. I don't want to experience that again.
Yes, and I just want to remind people, because I don't have to say this to you, but it's really bad luck if you don't buy the book. It really is. And it's also an incredibly generous thing to do, of course. The amount of work put into this, and to validate what someone's done, and to perhaps buy a copy for someone else. It's where we give out, it's not always where it comes back. So I'm going to encourage people to, when in a moment, we'll give her a round of applause in a moment, we'll just let her gracefully move to the back, and then we can go and have something else to eat. And just to say, again, a huge congratulations. And big round of applause. Take her up to the back. That's right. She's going to be doing some signing there. I believe the books are $24.95, which is for what you're going to get in that book. I can assure you, is it's pretty special, and it's a book to have on the
And before you go, I just wanted to thank a few really special people that helped make this book a huge reality for me. There was something else I wanted to say first, but I can't remember now. It'll come to me. First of all, a massive big thank you to you, Claire. It is an absolute honour to have you in my life and to work with you and your animals, and the work that you do is amazing, and thank you for being here today. It's really special. And, secondly, I would love to thank Maritza. I know, the very talkative Greek who I've worked with for many years, who has pushed me gently with love to start writing this book 5 years ago. And here we are, and here you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mem, thank you so much for being part of this amazing project. Mem has, look, people tell me, you're a good writer. But wait until you send your manuscript to Mem. There was a lot of red.
Saves your blushes, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
All your blushes.
Amazing work you've done. You are an amazing human being, and thank you for allowing me to share Rami's story as well, and it was wonderful to work with you. Thank you. Barbara, thank you so much for being the photographer as well. It was great to work with you on that, and keeping it all very natural and relaxed, and the photos are amazing in the book as well. So thank you so much. She's an amazing photographer, guys, so if you need someone, Barbara is your gal. Who else is in the book that I had to think? So many people,
What about your
right?
partner? And,
Yes, absolutely. That's last. Yes, exactly. Amanda, thank you as well. Amanda flew all the way here from Melbourne to be here by our side. Thank you so much. Started off working with her and her beautiful Lenny, and she's done my workshop. She has been on my summit. You've done all the one-on-ones with me. Big raving fan, but also an extremely dear friend of mine. And she's also written the foreword in the book. So amazing that you're in my life as well, so thank you. And last but not least, my beautiful family. Michael, Lana. I'm just so blessed to have you in my life, and for you to support me in this way, and going through the massive ups, but also the massive big deep dives that we've been through over the last 5 years. It was certainly not an easy time to write this, and I just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I can't even tell you. I love you guys so much, and it's amazing to have you. And yeah. And Ziggy, yes, a new big bubby. Ziggy, he's 7 months, 20 kilos and growing. But he's a big bundle of love. Yeah, and Rosie and Toby, of course. I mean, they've been a big, massive help to put this project together. Their story is in there. During the publishing and the editing with Mem, they both passed away, sadly, but they have left such a legacy, and yeah, I couldn't have done it without them either, so thank you guys. And now all I have to say is enjoy, have some drinks, some nibbles, yeah, and come and talk to me if you want to ask me any questions. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. So let's get Bianca to be taken to the back, of course, and there's plenty to eat and drink, and thank you, Lana, for putting all this wonderful stuff together. And go and introduce yourself to other people, because obviously a book is always a reflection of the people that are interests. So go and introduce yourself to other people, and get some food and head for the counter. She'll be here till she's signed.